You are welcome to today's lecture under the Use of English series for JAMB UTME, Episode 4. Do not forget that this lecture has been focally designed for ambitious UTME 2026 candidates that wants to score 70 and above in use of English. Today's topic for the lecture is clause. Do not forget to enable landscape view or maximize your screen by tapping on the icon around here. Click the icon around here to maximize your screen for the best experience. Let's quickly look at the outline of today's lecture. The outlines: definition and types of clause, examples of clause in sentences, difference between clause and phrase, practice exercises from WAEC and JAMB/answers, quick recap on the topic. You will learn the above in this lecture. I wish you good luck. Clause. A clause is a group of words that contains both a subject and a verb. A collection of words that contain both a subject and a verb. Group of words put together or words put together that contains both a subject and a verb. That's a clause. Types of clause. There are two types of clause, which includes the independent clause, or can also be called the main clause. The dependent clause, or can also be called subordinate clause. So you can easily say we have the independent clause and the dependent clause, or you say we have the main clause and the subordinate clause. Moving on. Independent clause or main clause. Independent clause stands alone as a complete sentence. It makes sense on its own. That's what that means. It stands alone as a complete sentence. It does not need any further sentence to qualify it or to subordinate it. It can stand alone. It makes sense on its own. So an independent clause is a clause that is independent, does not depend on any other clause to make sense. Okay? For example, he forgot to close the door. He forgot to close the door. Remember, we said clause is a group of words that have both a subject and a verb. This is the subject, he, and forgot is a verb. If you have not taken my lecture on verbs, please do well to find the lecture here on YouTube and take the lecture. Okay? So he is the subject and forgot is the verb. The second example, she stood by him. The subject is she, the verb is stood. These are independent or main clause. Okay, they are not dependent. They make sense. He forgot to close the door. It makes sense without any further sentence or statement, and it contains a subject and a verb. She stood by him. It makes sense on its own. It does not need any additional sentence to make up or to make it make sense. So this and this are independent clause. Moving on. Dependent clause, or can also be called subordinate clause. Subordinate clause cannot stand alone and depends on another clause. It does not make sense on its own. That's what that means in other words. Okay, for example, because he was tired. Because he was tired. You can hear what I just read. Because he was tired. Okay, that doesn't make sense. It's like a half statement. It's not a complete statement. It does not make sense on its own, though it has the subject and the verb, which makes it a clause. Because a subject and a verb, which makes it a clause. This is a what is subordinate or a dependent clause, because such a clause depends on another sentence to make it make sense. Okay, they don't appear on their own like this. That's why during your primary school days you were taught not to start a sentence with because sentences that start with because does not make sense. So subordinate clause can start with because. Okay, because the clause can stand on its own. Let's also look at this example. Despite his ruffled looks. Despite his ruffled looks. The subject here is despite his. Despite his. Okay, despite his. Then the verb here is ruffled. Ruffled is the verb. Okay, so this is a dependent clause. Example of both clauses in a sentence. Example of both clauses in a sentence. He forgot to close the door. He forgot to close the door because he was tired. So you can see this is the independent clause. He forgot to close the door. It makes sense on its own. You can hear that. He forgot to close the door. It makes sense on its own. The sentence can stand on its own, and it possesses the subject and the verb, which is he is the subject, Forgot is the verb. But let's look at the subordinate or dependent clause. Because he was tired. You can see that for this sentence to stand, or for this clause to stand, it needs this independent clause to be a complete sentence. That's what makes it a subordinate clause or a dependent clause. It's dependent on the main clause to stand or to make sense. Okay, let's look at the next example. Despite his ruffled looks, she stood by him. Despite his ruffled looks, she stood by him. Which is the dependent and independent clause here? Despite his ruffled looks is the dependent clause. It depends on she stood by him to make sense. Remember when I told you that despite his ruffled looks is a fragment of another sentence. This is the other part of the sentence that completes it, that makes it make sense. So you can't come and say despite his ruffled looks, that is a dependent clause, okay? Because it doesn't make sense on its own. But you can say she stood by him. That is a complete sentence that makes sense, okay? Because it's an independent clause. It does not depend on any sentence or clause to make sense. I made myself clear, didn't I? I think I did. Moving on. Differences between clause and phrase. What are the differences? The left colon on the table for the clause and the right colon on the table for the phrase, okay? Looking at the left side of the screen, we have the clause. Clause contains subjects, okay? Go to the right hand side, while phrase does not contain subjects, okay? Clause contains verb, while phrase does not contain verb, okay? Can stand on its own, alone, sometimes, especially was the independent clause. Can stand alone sometimes. Clause can stand alone sometimes. Why? Phrase cannot stand alone. Never. It never happens. Can form sentences or parts of sentences. Yes, that's for clause. Then for phrase, functions as a single part of speech. It can function as, a phrase can function as adjective, it can function as verb, it can function as pronoun, it can function as conjunction. Phrase can never form a part of sentence. It can only form a part of speech in a sentence. Did I make myself clear? I think I did. Let's move on. Example of phrase. An example of phrase is after the meeting, no subject or verb. After the meeting, this is a phrase. Okay? After the meeting, it does not make sense and it has no subject. Neither does it have a verb. It has no subject, neither does it have a verb. After the meeting, no subject, no verb. Okay? Running quickly is also a phrase. Running quickly is also an example of a phrase. Okay? Verb form without subject. This one has a verb, running. Running is the verb, but it has no subject, making it a what? A phrase. Let's move on. Exercises. These exercises was picked from JAMB UTME 1997/2000. The instruction says, choose the option that best completes the sentence. Choose the option that best completes the sentence. Always read the instruction in your exam. Do not forget that. Number 1, we decided to wait dash the rain stopped. We decided to wait dash the rain stopped. A, until. B, before. C, after the meeting. D, during. What's your answer? We decided to wait dash the rain stopped. You answered right. A is the right answer. We decided to wait until the rain stopped. Number 2, she was happy that she had passed the exam. She was happy that she had passed the exam. A, because. B, in the morning. C, before the party. D, after the party. What's your answer? You answered right. The answer is A, because. She was happy because she passed the exam. Moving on. Number 3. Dash is important for a healthy life. Dash is important for a healthy life. A, exercise regularly. B, because he is late. C, although it is cold. D, running fast. What's your answer? Dash is important for a healthy life. You answered right. The answer is exercising regularly. A, exercising regularly is important for a healthy life. Number 4, they left the house dash the phone rang. They left the house dash the phone rang. A, when. B, running fast. C, in the evening. D, before the rain. What's your answer? They left the house dash the phone rang. You answered right. A, when is the answer. They left the house when the phone rang. These are the answers. What did you score? A quick recap on the lecture. A clause has a subject and a verb. Take note of that. It can be independent or dependent, which is also referred to as the main clause or subordinate clause. A phrase is a group of words without both a subject and a verb. Remember that a phrase can have a verb but no subject, or it might not have both a subject and a verb altogether. Okay? Clauses can form complete sentences or parts of sentences. Clauses can form complete sentences or parts of sentences. Phrases function as single part of speech. Thank you so much for taking this lecture. Do not forget to subscribe and follow for more at Nkwado Augustine across all social media platforms. Drop your questions on the comment section and I will do justice to your questions. Do you have any knowledge gap? Drop it on the comment section. At this point, I'm out.